The morning I decided to stop speaking, I was 10 years old. I remember standing in the doorway of my father's study, my small hands clutching the frame as I listened to him discuss my future with the matchmaker. His voice carried through the wooden panels like a death sentence. "The boy is too delicate," the matchmaker had said, her wrinkled fingers tracing patterns in her ledger. "Beautiful, yes. Those golden eyes will fetch a price. But omegas are plentiful these days, Lord Kim. You'll need to be patient." "Patience doesn't feed 6 alpha sons," my father had snapped. "The omega will marry whoever offers the best bride price. I don't care if he's happy. Omegas don't need happiness, they need to be useful." That was the moment I understood. I wasn't Kim Lee-ho, the youngest son who loved reading poetry and tending the garden. I was an asset, a transaction waiting to happen. And once I turned 18, I would be sold to the highest bidder, my fate sealed in a loveless marriage like so many omegas before me. So I made a choice. If I couldn't control my destiny, I could at least delay it. I stopped speaking that very day. At first, my family thought I was being stubborn. My eldest brother, Min Jae, tried to coax words from me with promises of sweet rice cakes. My father threatened me with his belt. But as weeks turned to months and months turned to years, they accepted what they believed to be true. Their omega son had lost the ability to speak. The irony was bitter on my tongue. The voice I silenced to protect myself became my shield. Now, 8 years later, I stood in the servants' quarters of the royal palace, that same bitter irony my only companion. I was 20 years old, officially unmarried and therefore officially a burden. My father's face when he'd signed the papers selling me to the palace had been carved from stone, showing neither regret nor relief. Just the cold calculation of a man cutting his losses. "You," a sharp voice cut through my thoughts. Head maid Park stood in the doorway, her expression pinched with perpetual displeasure. "The Alpha King requires service in his chambers tonight. You'll attend him after the feast." My heart stuttered. In the year I'd worked at the palace, I'd seen the Alpha King only from a distance. A tall figure with broad shoulders and an aura of power that made the air itself seem to bend around him. His name was Hanju, and he was everything an Alpha King should be: commanding, fierce, and breathtakingly handsome. I nodded, keeping my eyes lowered as I always did. "Don't embarrass us," Head maid Park warned. "The king has been restless lately. Stay quiet, serve the wine, and leave." "Understood." I nodded again. She had no idea how good I was at staying quiet. The feast hall blazed with 1,000 candles, their light dancing across silk banners and golden ornaments. I moved through the shadows like a ghost, refilling cups and clearing plates, invisible in my plain servant's robes. But I felt his eyes on me. Alpha King Hanju sat at the head of the great table, surrounded by nobles and military commanders, yet his gaze kept drifting toward me. Each time our eyes met, his dark and intense, mine golden and startled, something pulled tight in my chest like a string being tuned to breaking point. My omega instinct screamed at me. Mate. It was impossible. The Alpha King couldn't be my destined mate. Fate wouldn't be so cruel as to dangle something so unattainable before me. Would it? I forced myself to look away to focus on my duties. But I could smell him even from across the room, pine and rain and something wild that made my skin prickle with awareness. As the night wore on, the king drank heavily. I'd never seen him like this. His usually controlled demeanor loosening, his movements becoming less precise. The other servants whispered nervously. When Head maid Park caught my arm, her fingers dug in hard enough to bruise. "He's called for you specifically," she hissed. "Be careful. A drunk alpha is dangerous, especially one as powerful as the king." My pulse thundered as I made my way through the palace corridors toward the royal chambers. The guard at the door gave me a sympathetic look before pushing it open. The king's chamber was magnificent, all dark wood and deep blue silks, with windows that overlooked the palace gardens. Hanju stood by those windows, his back to me, one hand braced against the frame. I knelt immediately, pressing my forehead to the floor in the traditional servant's greeting. The door closed behind me with an ominous click. "Stand," the king commanded, his voice rougher than usual. I rose gracefully, keeping my eyes down. My hands trembled slightly as I poured wine into his cup, the liquid gleaming dark red in the lamplight. He moved closer. Too close. His scent washed over me in waves and my omega body responded instantly, my skin flushing hot, my breathing becoming shallow. This was the mate bond, stronger than I'd ever imagined possible. "Look at me," Hanju said softly. I raised my eyes to his. Up close, he was devastating, sharp features softened slightly by drink, full lips, and eyes that seemed to see straight through every defense I'd ever built. "You're the mute omega," he said, but there was a question in his tone. "The one who's worked here for a year." I nodded, not trusting myself to maintain the deception if I did anything else. Do you know, he continued, stepping closer still, that I've been watching you? For months now. Every time you're near, something in me? He trailed off, his jaw clenching. I thought I was going mad. His hand reached out, fingers ghosting along my jawline. The touch sent electricity straight through me. I gasped, actually gasped, and his eyes darkened with satisfaction. You react to me, he murmured. The mate bond. You feel it too, don't you? I couldn't maintain the lie. Not now. Not with him so close, with my entire body screaming for him. I gave the smallest nod. Then why? His thumb brushed across my lower lip. Why do you hide? Why the silence? The wine had lowered his inhibitions, but it had also made him vulnerable in a way I'd never expected to see. He looked almost hurt. Before I could think better of it, I raised my hand and placed it over his heart. His breath hitched at the contact. I know you can speak, he whispered. I've known for weeks. The way you move, the way you respond, you understand everything perfectly. You're not mute. You're hiding. My secret, held so carefully for 8 years, crumbled in the space between one heartbeat and the next. The Alpha King's hand slid to the back of my neck, a possessive gesture that made my knees weak. His scent intensified, that wild, pine-fresh smell that spoke directly to my Omega nature. I'm drunk, he admitted, his voice low and rough. Drunk enough to stop pretending I don't know what you are to me. Drunk enough to stop being the controlled, proper king everyone expects. His forehead touched mine. But not so drunk that I don't know exactly what I'm doing. Not so drunk that I don't mean every word. You're mine, Liho. My mate. Mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it ignited something deep in my core, that Omega instinct to submit, to belong, to be claimed by this Alpha. Please, I whispered, and the single word shattered years of silence. Hanju froze. His eyes widened, then darkened with an intensity that stole my breath. Say that again, he commanded. Please, I repeated, my voice rusty from disuse but clear. Please, my king. Hanju, he corrected, pulling me flush against him. When we're alone you call me Hanju. Say it. Hanju, I breathed, and his control snapped. His mouth crashed onto mine with a hunger that consumed everything. He kissed me like he was drowning and I was air, desperate, passionate, claiming. His hands were everywhere, pulling me closer, tilting my head to deepen the kiss. When his tongue swept into my mouth, I moaned, the sound swallowed by his lips. We stumbled backward toward his bed, our mouths never separating. My plain servant's robes were no match for his urgent hands. He pulled at ties and pushed fabric aside until it pooled at my feet. I stood before him in nothing but my undergarments, my pale skin flushed pink, my body trembling. Beautiful, he growled, his eyes raking over me with undisguised hunger. So fucking beautiful. Do you know how long I've wanted this? How many nights I've laid in this bed thinking about you? His own robes followed mine to the floor, revealing a body sculpted by years of training, broad chest, defined muscles, skin marked here and there with battle scars. He was magnificent. When he pressed me back onto the silk sheets, I went willingly, my body arching up to meet his. His mouth found my neck, lips and teeth working over the sensitive skin, and I cried out. That's it, he murmured against my throat. Let me hear you. Let me hear every sound you've kept locked away. His hands explored my body with a reverence that made me shake. Every touch was deliberate, purposeful. Learning what made me gasp, what made me moan, what made my back arch off the bed. When his fingers wrapped around my hardened length, stroking slowly, I thought I might die from the pleasure of it. Hanju, I gasped. Please, I need. Tell me, he demanded, his dark eyes boring into mine. Tell me what you need. Use that voice you've hidden for so long. You, I whispered. I need you. All of you. Please. The Alpha in him responded to my plea with a growl that vibrated through his chest. He prepared me carefully despite his urgency, his fingers working me open with an intimate tenderness that brought tears to my eyes. No one had ever touched me like this, like I was precious, like I mattered. When he finally positioned himself at my entrance, he paused, his hand cupping my face. Look at me, he commanded softly. I want to see your eyes when I claim you. When I make you mine forever. Our gazes locked, gold meeting midnight, and he pushed forward slowly, filling me inch by devastating inch. The sensation was overwhelming, pleasure and pressure and rightness all tangled together. I clutched at his shoulders, my nails digging into his skin as he seated himself fully inside me. Perfect, he groaned. You're perfect. Made for me. Only me. When he began to move, it was with a controlled power that quickly unraveled into raw passion. Each thrust drove deeper, harder, the bed frame creaking beneath us. He captured my mouth in another searing kiss, swallowing my cries of pleasure. Mine? He growled against my lips between thrusts. Say it. Say you're mine. Yours? I gasped out. Always yours, Hanju. The mate bond between us pulled tighter, a golden thread connecting our souls. I could feel his pleasure mixing with mine, his possessiveness, his desperate need to claim and protect. It was intoxicating. When his teeth found the sensitive scent gland at my neck, the traditional claiming bite that would mark me as his Omega forever, I screamed his name. The bite sent me over the edge, pleasure exploding through every nerve. He followed moments later, his body shuddering as he marked me, claimed me, made me irrevocably his. We collapsed together in a tangle of limbs, both breathing hard. His arms wrapped around me possessively, pulling me against his chest. No regrets, he murmured into my hair. Tomorrow when I'm sober I'll have no regrets. You're my mate, Liho. My true mate. And I will spend the rest of my life proving to you that fate made no mistake. I woke to sunlight streaming through the silk curtains and the feeling of being watched. Hanju sat on the edge of the bed, already dressed in his royal robes, his expression unreadable as he studied me. My heart sank. This was it, the moment he'd regret everything. The moment he'd send me away, claiming drunken mistakes and improper conduct. Instead, he reached out and gently traced the claiming mark on my neck. His touch was reverent. Tell me, he said quietly. Tell me why you pretended to be mute. Tell me everything. So I did. Sitting there in his bed, wrapped in his sheets, I told him about the matchmaker's visit when I was 10. About my father's cold calculations. About the fate that awaited most Omegas, loveless marriages, depression, being treated as property rather than people. About my desperate attempt to delay the inevitable by making myself unmarriageable. It worked, I said bitterly. No alpha wanted a mute Omega. I was rejected by every potential match. My father saw me as worthless, a burden. So he sold me here to the palace, to at least recoup some value from his defective son. Hanju's jaw clenched tighter with every word. When I finished, he pulled me into his arms, holding me so fiercely it almost hurt. Your father is a fool, he said, his voice tight with controlled rage. You are not worthless. You are not defective. You are brilliant and strong and resourceful. You protected yourself the only way you knew how. But I lied, I whispered. To everyone. Including you. You survived, he corrected. There's a difference. He pulled back to look at me, his hands framing my face. Liho, I meant what I said last night. Every word. You're my true mate. The bond doesn't lie. And I want you, not as a servant, not as a shameful secret, but as my official mate. My partner. My equal. Hope fluttered in my chest, fragile and terrifying. The court will never accept it. A servant Omega as the king's mate? Then the court will learn to accept it, he said with the absolute authority of a king. I didn't claim my throne by bowing to others' expectations. I won't start now. His thumb brushed across my cheek. But I want to do this properly. Court you as you deserve. Show everyone exactly how precious you are to me. You want to court me? I asked, almost laughing at the absurdity. You've already claimed me. We're bonded. I know. His smile was slightly sheepish. I may have done things backward. The drunk part wasn't my finest moment. But you deserve romance, Liho. You deserve to be wooed. So yes, I'm going to court you properly even though you're already mine. The palace erupted with gossip within hours. The Alpha King's new favorite, the mute servant who apparently wasn't mute at all, who wore the king's claiming mark proudly on his neck, who'd been moved from the servants' quarters to a suite of rooms near the king's own chambers. I felt the stares everywhere I went. Some curious, some envious, some outright hostile. Headmaid Park looked like she'd swallowed something sour every time she saw me. The other servants whispered behind their hands. But Hanju was true to his word. He courted me with a determination that was both overwhelming and achingly sweet. He sent me gifts, not expensive jewels or silks, but books of poetry he thought I'd enjoy, ink and paper for writing, plants for the small garden he'd had created outside my rooms. He invited me to walk with him in the palace gardens, his hand always seeking mine, his presence a constant shield against the whispers. Ignore them, he'd say whenever he caught me wincing at a particularly cruel comment. Their opinions matter less than dust. One evening, as we sat together in his private study, he reading diplomatic reports while I worked on calligraphy, he suddenly spoke. I've been thinking about what you told me. About your father. I looked up from my work, ink brush pausing mid-stroke. He'll hear about us soon if he hasn't already, Hanju continued. About you being my mate. He'll come here expecting. I don't know. Recognition? Reward for producing such a valuable Omega? My stomach twisted. He'll want to benefit from my new position. Let him come, Hanju said, his voice hard as steel. I have things I want to say to Lord Kim. My father arrived at the palace 3 weeks after the claiming, bringing with him my eldest brother Min Jae and a cartload of gifts for the king. I watched from a hidden alcove as they were announced in the throne room, my father's face arranged in what he probably thought was a pleasant expression but looked more like a merchant scenting profit. Hanju sat on his throne, every inch the powerful Alpha King, his face carved from ice. I stood beside him, not behind, not hidden, but beside him as his mate should stand. The entire court had been summoned to witness this audience. Lord Kim, Hanju said, his voice carrying through the hall. How gracious of you to visit. My father bowed low, too low to be anything but calculated. Your Majesty, I come bearing gifts and congratulations. To think, my youngest son. Your worthless son, Hanju interrupted, his voice sharp as a blade. Isn't that what you called him? The burden you sold to the palace? My father's face paled. Your Majesty, I never. Don't lie to me. Hanju stood, and the alpha power radiating from him made everyone in the room take an involuntary step back. I know exactly what you said. How you treated your own child. How you saw him as nothing but a transaction, an asset to be sold to the highest bidder. He's an Omega, my father stammered as if that explained everything. He's a person. Hanju's voice boomed through the hall. He's brilliant, resourceful, and strong. Stronger than you'll ever be. He survived despite you, not because of you. Hanju descended from his throne, moving toward my father with predatory grace. You know what the real irony is? In trying to control his fate, you made him the perfect match for a king. His silence taught him to observe, to think, to strategize. His suffering taught him empathy. Everything good about him exists in spite of what you did to him. He turned to address the entire court. From this day forward, no Omega in this kingdom will be treated as property. No Omega will be forced into unwanted marriages. No Omega will be seen as worthless or lesser. Any person, noble or common, who violates this decree will face severe punishment. The court erupted in whispers, but Hanju wasn't finished. He turned back to my father. As for you, Lord Kim, your lands and titles are hereby reduced. Your wealth will be redistributed to establish sanctuaries for Omegas escaping abusive situations. You'll keep enough to live comfortably, but never again will you profit from another's suffering. My father's face turned purple with rage. You can't. I'm the king, Hanju said simply. I can. And I have. Be grateful I'm feeling merciful. If Li Ho wasn't so forgiving, I'd do far worse. He returned to me, taking my hand in his and raising it to his lips, a gesture of respect and love that sent another wave of whispers through the crowd. This is my mate, he declared. My true mate. And anyone who disrespects him disrespects me. Remember that. The months that followed were the happiest of my life. Hanju kept his promise to court me properly. He took me riding through the mountain passes, showed me secret gardens within the palace walls, taught me to dance at private balls where it was just the two of us and music. He learned which poets I loved and would read to me in the evenings, his deep voice turning ancient words into new magic. In return, I helped him with his correspondence, offering insights he said were invaluable. I tended a growing garden that provided herbs for the palace kitchens and medicinal plants for the healers. I found my voice, literally and figuratively, speaking up in councils, offering opinions, becoming not just the king's mate but his partner in truth. The court slowly accepted me. Some genuinely, some because they feared Hanju's wrath, but accept me they did. The whispers changed from cruel to curious to, eventually, approving. The other servants who'd said terrible things about Hanju in front of me, thinking I was mute, lived in constant fear that I'd reveal their words. I never did. Hanju noticed their nervousness. They said things about me, didn't they? He asked one night as we lay tangled together in his bed. When they thought you couldn't tell me. Yes, I admitted. And you won't tell me what? I turned to face him, tracing the strong line of his jaw. They were frightened people saying frightened things. You're a powerful alpha, a king. Of course they feared you. But they also respected you even when they complained. Their words don't matter. Your actions speak louder. He pulled me closer, pressing a kiss to my forehead. How did I get so lucky? To find someone so beautiful inside and out. I could ask the same thing, I whispered. I spent so long thinking I'd end up in a loveless marriage, trapped and miserable. Instead I found you. My perfect mate. Our lovemaking that night was slow and tender, a reaffirmation of the bond between us. Hanju worshipped my body with his hands and mouth, drawing out my pleasure until I was begging. When he finally entered me, it felt like coming home. I love you, he breathed against my ear as he moved inside me. Every part of you. Your strength, your kindness, your brilliant mind. I love you, Li Ho. I love you too, I gasped, my body arching to meet his thrusts. Always. Forever. The bond between us glowed golden and bright, unbreakable. A year after the claiming, Hanju held a ceremony officially recognizing me as his mate and consort. I wore robes of white and gold, my black hair adorned with jade ornaments, and when I walked down the ceremonial pathway to where Hanju waited, I saw only love in his eyes. My father and brothers attended, they had no choice, but I barely noticed them. My focus was entirely on my mate, my love, my king. I, Alpha King Hanju, take you, Kim Li Ho, as my true mate and consort, he declared before the assembled court. I vow to protect you, cherish you, and stand beside you all the days of my life. I, Kim Li Ho, accept you, Hanju, as my true mate and king, I replied, my voice clear and strong, no longer hidden, no longer silent. I vow to support you, love you, and walk beside you through whatever comes. When he kissed me, the court erupted in applause. The celebration lasted 3 days. Omegas from across the kingdom came to the palace, many of them thanking me personally for the new laws Hanju had enacted. Sanctuaries had been established. Forced marriages were now illegal. Omegas had rights, protections, choices. You did this, I told Hanju as we watched dancers perform in the courtyard. You changed everything. We did this, he corrected, pulling me against his side. Your courage inspired it all. You taught me that strength isn't just about power, it's about resilience, survival, choosing to keep going even when everything seems hopeless. As the sun set on our celebration, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, I reflected on the strange journey that had led me here. The frightened 10-year-old who'd chosen silence over a terrible fate could never have imagined this happiness. I'd found my voice. I'd found my mate. I'd found a love so fierce and protective and genuine that it still took my breath away. And standing there in Hanju's arms, watching our kingdom celebrate, I knew that every hardship, every silent year, every moment of fear had been worth it. Because this love, this life, this future, was worth everything. What are you thinking? Hanju murmured, pressing a kiss to my temple. I smiled up at him, my golden eyes meeting his dark ones. I'm thinking that I'm the luckiest Omega in the kingdom. No, he corrected, his arms tightening around me. I'm the luckiest Alpha. Because I found you. My silent Omega who learned to sing. And as he kissed me again, surrounded by celebration and joy, I knew he was right. We were both lucky. We'd found each other against all odds and our love would endure forever. The end, and the beginning, of our happily ever after. The celebration had finally ended, the last of the guests departing as midnight approached. My feet ached from dancing, my face hurt from smiling, but my heart had never felt so full. Hanju's hand found mine as we walked through the quiet corridors back to our chambers. Our chambers now officially. No more pretense, no more separation. I was his consort, his mate, recognized before the entire kingdom. Tired? He asked softly, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. A little, I admitted, leaning into his warmth. But happy. So incredibly happy. He pushed open the heavy doors to our rooms and I caught my breath. The servants had transformed the space. Rose petals scattered across the silk sheets, candles casting dancing shadows on the walls, the scent of jasmine incense perfuming the air. I wanted tonight to be special, Hanju said, suddenly looking almost nervous, an expression I rarely saw on my powerful Alpha King. Our official bonding night. I turned to face him fully, reaching up to cup his strong jaw. Every night with you is special. But this. I looked around at the romantic setting, then back at him. This is beautiful. You're beautiful. He caught my hand, pressing a kiss to my palm that sent shivers down my spine. Not as beautiful as you. Do you know what you looked like today? Walking toward me in those white and gold robes, your eyes shining? I forgot how to breathe. His fingers found the ties of my ceremonial robes, working them loose with practiced ease. The heavy fabric slipped from my shoulders, pooling at my feet until I stood before him in just my thin underlayers. My turn, I whispered, reaching for his robes. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from anticipation. Even after a year together he still affected me like this. Made my heart race and my Omega nature sing with need. I pushed the royal robes from his broad shoulders, revealing the body I'd memorized with my hands and mouth. All defined muscle and smooth skin, marked here and there with scars that told stories of battles won. He was magnificent and he was mine. Li Ho, he breathed my name like a prayer, pulling me close. The feel of his skin against mine, even through the thin silk I still wore, ignited something primal. I need you. Always need you. Then take me, I said boldly, tilting my head to expose the claiming mark on my neck, his mark forever branded on my skin. I'm yours, Hanju. Always yours. A growl rumbled from his chest, and suddenly I was being lifted, carried to our bed. He laid me down on the silk sheets with a reverence that made my breath catch. The rose petals released their fragrance as my weight pressed them into the fabric. He followed me down, covering my body with his, and kissed me deeply. His mouth moved against mine with a hunger that was somehow both demanding and tender. I opened for him, letting his tongue sweep inside, tasting the wine he'd drunk at the celebration mixed with something uniquely him. My hands roamed his back, tracing the strong muscles, memorizing the dips and curves. When I dragged my nails lightly down his spine, he groaned into my mouth, his hips pressing forward. I could feel how much he wanted me, hard and insistent against my thigh. Need to see you, he murmured against my lips, pulling back just enough to tug at my remaining clothing. All of you. I helped him, suddenly desperate to have nothing between us. When the last piece of silk fell away, his eyes darkened with pure desire as they roamed over my exposed body. Perfect, he whispered. So perfect. Mine. His mouth traced a burning path down my throat, pausing to kiss and lick the claiming mark. The sensation shot straight to my core, making me arch and moan. He knew exactly what that mark did to me, how sensitive it was, how every touch there connected directly to our mate bond. Hanju, please, I gasped as his lips continued their journey downward, across my collarbone down to my chest. When his mouth closed around one sensitive nipple, I cried out, my hands fisting in his dark hair. He lavished attention on my chest, his tongue and teeth working until I was writhing beneath him, desperate for more. My body responded to him instinctively, my omega nature recognizing its perfect alpha, my mate. Tell me what you want, he commanded, his voice rough with desire as he looked up at me. Use that beautiful voice. Touch me, I pleaded, beyond shame or hesitation. Please, I need your hands on me. His large hand wrapped around my aching length, and the pleasure was so intense I nearly sobbed. He stroked slowly, deliberately, watching my face as he worked me. Like this? He asked, though the slight smirk on his lips told me he knew exactly what he was doing to me. Yes, I gasped. Yes, just like, oh. He increased his pace, his grip firm and perfect. I could feel the pressure building, coiling tighter and tighter in my core. But just when I was about to tip over the edge, he stopped. I whimpered at the loss and he chuckled darkly. Not yet, my love. Tonight I want to take my time with you. Want to worship every inch of you. And he did. His mouth and hands explored my body with aching thoroughness, kissing the inside of my wrists where my pulse fluttered wildly, tracing the sharp line of my hip bones, pressing gentle kisses to the inside of my thighs that made me tremble. When he finally touched me where I needed him most, preparing me with slick fingers and infinite patience, I was already half undone. More? I begged shamelessly. Please, Hanju, I need more. Need you. I know, my love, he soothed, pressing soft kisses to my inner thigh. I've got you. Always got you. He worked me open carefully, thoroughly, adding another finger and then another until I was ready, until I was desperate and pleading for him. When he finally positioned himself above me, the head of his length pressing against my entrance, he paused. His hand cupped my face tenderly. Look at me, he commanded softly. Want to see those golden eyes when I make love to my consort. Our gazes locked, gold meeting midnight, and he pushed forward slowly, filling me inch by exquisite inch. The stretch, the fullness, the overwhelming rightness of having him inside me, it was everything. Perfect, he groaned when he was fully seated. You feel perfect. Like you were made for me. I managed to gasp out. We were made for each other. He began to move, slow and deep, each thrust deliberate and controlled. His eyes never left mine, the mate bond between us glowing and pulsing with shared pleasure. I love you, he said, punctuating each word with a deep thrust. Love everything about you. Your strength, your beauty, your brilliant mind. The way you challenged me made me better. Love you too, I moaned, my legs wrapping around his waist to pull him deeper. So much. Always. His pace increased gradually, his control beginning to fray as passion overtook precision. The bed rocked beneath us, the headboard hitting the wall in a rhythm that matched his thrusts. I clutched at his shoulders, my nails digging into his skin as pleasure built and built. Touch yourself, he commanded breathlessly. Want to see you fall apart. I wrapped my hand around my own length, stroking in time with his thrusts. The dual sensation was overwhelming, his body moving inside mine while my hand worked my aching need. That's it, he encouraged, his voice strained. So beautiful like this. Taking me so well. My perfect omega. My consort. Mine. The possessive words, combined with a particularly deep thrust that hit that spot inside me that made me see stars, sent me over the edge. I came with a cry of his name, my body clenching around him, pleasure exploding through every nerve. He followed moments later, his thrusts becoming erratic before he buried himself deep and found his own release. His teeth found my claiming mark again, not breaking skin but applying just enough pressure to send another wave of pleasure through me. We collapsed together, both breathing hard, skin slicked with sweat. Hanju carefully withdrew and rolled to his side, immediately pulling me against his chest. "My beautiful Li Ho," he murmured, pressing kisses to my hair, my forehead, my cheeks. "My mate. My consort. My everything." I burrowed closer, feeling safe and loved and cherished in his arms. "I never thought I could have this," I admitted softly. "This happiness, this love, you. And I never thought I'd find someone who could see past the crown to the man beneath it," he replied. "Someone who challenges me and supports me in equal measure. Someone who makes me want to be better, to build a better kingdom." I tilted my head up to kiss him gently. "We'll build it together. That's what mates do." "Together," he agreed, his arms tightening around me possessively. "Always together." As we lay there in the candlelight, surrounded by rose petals and the scent of jasmine, the bond between us hummed with contentment. Outside our chambers, a kingdom slept peacefully under the protection of their Alpha King and his Omega consort. But in this moment there was no kingdom, no responsibilities, no titles. There was only us, Hanju and Li Ho, two souls who'd found each other against all odds and built a love strong enough to change the world. "Stay with me," Hanju whispered as sleep began to claim us both. I smiled against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath my cheek. "Always. For all the days of my life and beyond. My silent Omega who learned to sing," he murmured, already half asleep. "The greatest gift fate ever gave me." And as I drifted off in the arms of my true mate, I knew that every silent year, every hardship, every moment of fear had led me here, to this perfect love, this perfect life, this perfect happiness. I had found my voice. I had found my mate. I had found my home. And I would never be silent again.